Continuing on our adventures with Sega's CD, with the second game that came in as a pack-in when I bought the Sega CD. Along with Soul Feast, there was also Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective. Kind of the opposite game to Soul Feast, really. Soul Feast was fast action, shoot 'em up. Sherlock Holmes is absolutely not fast in any sense of the word. Now, you may have heard the name Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective outside of the context of video games, because this did start off as a tabletop game. This is a video game adaptation. There are 3 cases for you to solve. And yes, there are live actors performing these roles. So there's the Mummy's Curse, there's the Mystified Murderess, and there's the Tin Soldier. Those are our 3 cases. Now, while I played Soul Feast quite a bit, I didn't spend that much time with Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, because at the time, I just wasn't used to this kind of game. On a console, you really didn't have anything like this. Okay, so we'll just get into it. Let's start with Holmes' introduction and get to know the man.
London is not a beautiful city. Under the soot that covers its buildings is a teeming mass of 4 million souls trying to survive, mostly off of each other. You see it in the paper every day. Thankfully, we have the London Times to keep us informed of all these troubling activities with an unbiased eye and razor-sharp accuracy. We find this publication to be of invaluable assistance in our investigations, and I'm sure you will as well. Among the forces of evil which run rampant in this city, there are also, thankfully, 2 groups of individuals who will aid us in our cause. As we do, they attempt to right wrongs and restore harmony and civility to the streets of London. The first of these groups is a ragtag association of young ruffians. I call them the Baker Street Irregulars. Don't let them fool you. They may be scruffy and ill-bred, but they are on the right side of the law. They can go everywhere, see everything, and overhear everyone. They are my eyes and ears in the streets of London, unquestionably a tremendous asset in our work. They will help us in our investigations if they can. The other group is a far more civilized collection of gentlemen and institutions. I call them the Baker Street Regulars. They, too, will be extremely useful in our work. At the start of any investigation, do keep in mind that it is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Unwittingly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. The people and places to whom I will now introduce you will help us to collect the facts. May we use them wisely. Come, the game's afoot.
All right, so that's Holmes. Now, something you might notice right away is the video quality is not great. And that is, of course, a problem that would kind of plague many Sega CD games, because they did like their FMV, even though the system was not great at it. But, you know, FMV is a brand new thing on consoles. You couldn't have this before, so I guess that's what we're doing, even though the Genesis's limited color palette just wasn't really appropriate for this. So this game came out on a number of systems in which the video would have been of higher quality, and if you were interested in playing this today, this is on Steam. A remastered version of it came out in 2015, and I guess that is the highest quality video you're gonna get of these wonderful amateur actors. But that's not what we're playing. We are playing the Sega CD game. We have 3 cases, and we'll just start off with the Mummy's Curse. We'll get an introduction, and then we'll get into how you actually are supposed to play this.
What rubbish! What balderdash!
You must have read something terribly disturbing, Watson, for you to be so overwrought this early in the morning.
Indeed, Holmes. It's irresponsible of the Times to play upon people's superstitions.
Ah, you must be referring to the affair of the mummy's curse.
Has the entire city in an uproar. 3 men dead, and they expect us to believe that the 4,000-year-old mummy was the murderer. I'm surprised you haven't taken some interest in this case, Holmes.
To the contrary, my dear Watson. I have made some inquiries, because I dare say I do believe this murderer is a much younger chap.
All right, so the London Times are talking about 3 people murdered and maybe the culprit was a mummy. Watson's quite upset that the Times would print something like this. All right, this game does not have a note-taking system. We're going to have to take our own notes. Hot notes. So, what did we learn from that? 3 people dead. Article in the Times says maybe a mummy killed them. I don't think we learned anything else. I think that was the extent of it. Now, what tools do we have here? Well, down here we do have the London Times. Which issue? It would probably be useful to look up the article they're talking about. The problem is, I don't know what day this case takes place on. You might say it's the latest one. It is not. It's not the latest one. I forget which one it is. I think it was one of the April ones. I mean, there's a year apart there. But skimming through the newspaper is not a fast thing. This is what the newspaper looks like. How do you read an article? Click on it. All right, so which article is the one about the mummy? It's probably one of the longer ones, right? This is an exhibition of sewing machines. At the Royal Agricultural Hall, Islington, on Saturday afternoon, an exhibition full of promise and interest to all sections of the public was opened. It was termed the second annual International Sewing Machines and Domestic Appliances Exhibition. The exhibit includes a lock-stitch shuttleless machine, which will do 1 mile of lock-stitch sewing, a novelty in hairpins, which twist into the hair like a corkscrew, a machine for which it is claimed that a girl can make 4,000 to 5,000 buttonholes a day, automatic musical instruments, and the new honeycomb wine bin tubes, which appear to be of much utility in the cellar, and very compact fire escapes, which can be utilized for ordinary use as chairs and chests of drawers. The exhibition will be open for a fortnight. So, most of the articles will have nothing to do with the case. It would be nice if they said what day this case takes place on. Council hears dedication plans. Murder in Bloomsbury. I don't think there's anything here about a mummy, though. Blow to the head. Yeah, nothing about a mummy, so we don't care about that. We don't want to know about that. We want to know about the mummy who killed 3 people. Central Criminal Court. I like the word prosecutrix. But it's not about our mummy case. There are other things we could do. I just figured that a good starting point for the case would be to find this article. Not about China and the Vatican. Mummy. Oh, here we go. Mummy strikes again. The body of James Windibank was discovered late yesterday in the room he was preparing for the British Museum's exhibit of newly discovered artifacts from the tomb of Cadabit's mummy. The archaeologist was found strangled. Around his neck were linen bandages of the type used by the ancient Egyptians in wrapping mummies. Windibank's is the 3rd murder to be associated with the mummy Cadabit in the past 6 weeks. The archaeologist had accompanied the London University-sponsored expedition to Egypt. The project has been cursed with ill luck since the first discovery of the tomb several months ago. Its organizer, Dr. Ebenezer Turnbull, was murdered in the actual tomb itself in early March. Another archaeologist, Andrew Weatherby, met a similar fate on board the ship returning to England just last week. The Jardine ship Eastern Empress was the scene of that mysterious death. The shipboard investigation was handled by Captain Herman Ramsey and his first officer, Luther Tenney. Scotland Yard has declined to name any suspects at this time. So this is the article that Watson was reading and was saying, "What rubbish! What balderdash!" What do we learn from this? Okay, so one of the victims was James Windebank. It says that he was I think it said he was the third victim killed in British Museum. Strangled with linen bandages found around neck. Let me just see. Then it mentions some other people. Third murder. Let's see. The first murder. Ebenezer Turnbull. First victim. Murdered in tomb in Egypt. Then Andrew Weatherby, second victim, killed on ship returning to England. Ship was called Eastern Empress, owned by Jardine. Investigation on ship by Herman Ramsey and Luther Tenney. Okay, so we're learning a few things about our victims, how they were killed. Let's see. We can keep looking at the newspaper. To the editor of the Times, sir, with regard to the recent mummy murders, I would like to suggest that we abandon our attempts to disturb the ancients, in their graves or otherwise. This applies not only to such excavations as has become so common in Egypt, Morocco, and other foreign lands, but also to such projects in our own British Isles. If the hypotheses of such men as James Ferguson, who believe that Stonehenge is an ancient sepulchral monument of the Saxon Druids, are true, we should leave these burial grounds undisturbed. Surely if these murders are the work of some present-day mortal human, the police will discover his identity and bring him to justice. I do sincerely believe, however, we should not meddle in the magic and sorcery of which we know not, for we have not the means to control the forces thus unleashed. Respectfully yours, J.A. Smuts. It's a pretty good name. I might, if I was writing a story, I might name a character J.A. Smuts. There's also this. To the editor of the Times, sir, the recent mummy affair points up to a fact I have been trying to convince my fellow Britishers of for quite some time, that is, of the phenomenal number of crimes, particularly those of a serious nature, committed by foreigners. Shouldn't we act now to restrict access to our beloved isle before this tragedy becomes yet worse? Johnny Bulldog Trent. Ah, some things never change. I mean, that's more depressing than funny. So, let's see. So we got that article. We learned a few things. We also have Holmes's notebook. These are his go-to peoples and locations to get information. We can talk to them about the case and see what they think about it. So here's Henry Ellis. We can find out who he is by looking at Holmes's files. Henry Ellis is the foreign news editor of the London Times. Okay, so the article was in the London Times. Probably would be good to talk to him about that article. This face over here represents the Baker Street irregulars, who say Ellis was too busy to see the likes of us today. He didn't want to talk to the irregulars. Surely he would talk to Holmes, though, so we can go talk to him personally.
It's quite amusing, all this hoopla over a mummy's curse, I must say. Not so amusing, of course, the murder of 3 Englishmen.
Have any of your reporters uncovered anything new?
Actually, I've been in Paris the past several weeks. Just returned to London on Tuesday. I've had no involvement with the writing of any of these articles. I believe they are all the work of Philip Travis. He's one of our young reporters. For a short time, he was the Egyptian correspondent.
Was he sacked?
No. He returned to London just a few days ago. I gather he was reassigned to cover the case from here because he had some familiarity with the murder in Egypt.
Do you know Travis?
No, never actually met the chap, although I hear he's a bit of an odd duck.
Thanks for your help, Henry.
Anytime. Let me know when you catch the mummy. That's one scoop I'd like to get.
All right, so the editor did tell us something. He told us that the author of the article was Philip Travis. Considering that the information you get, a lot of it comes from these FMV scenes, subtitles would have been nice. That just wasn't something they were doing at the time, though. All right, Philip Travis. Well, he's not in our notebook because, Holmes has never spoken to him before. But we could look up the directory. So, London directory. There's a whole bunch of names and places, and most of these names will have nothing to do with the case. And that's deliberate. It's because it's giving you a whole lot of irrelevant entries, right? So you're not supposed to brute force this. You're supposed to use the clues to figure out who you want to talk to, and not just try talking to everyone in the phone book. Well, phone. They didn't actually have. They weren't using phones. In the address book. So, because of our investigative work, we did find out the article was written by Philip Travis, who is here. We can learn about him. We don't have anything on file for him. Mr. Holmes, this guy is a loony. Well, let's discover just how much of a loony he is.
So you've been reading my articles in the Times. I'm honored. What do you think of them?
Quite interesting. You've clearly been following the murders quite closely. Who do you suspect?
I believe it is the work of the ancient Egyptian god Pumatef and his goddess Neith.
Be serious.
I couldn't be more serious. You see, Mr. Holmes, although I am a journalist, I was actually trained as an Egyptologist. I know all about these mysteries. That's why my articles carry the force of truth.
And what is the truth, Mr. Travis?
The truth is that the Egyptians discovered the secret of life. What we call science is mere child's play compared to the knowledge they had. Look at this. Do you know what this is?
It appears to be a mummified animal of some sort. A monkey, perhaps?
Precisely.
Write a conversation piece.
I've been using it in some very important experiments which, if successful, will unlock the secret for bringing back the souls of the dead. I've been working on it, Mr. Holmes, using these tanner leaves. Watch. Uma lotus. Licantina. Burura.
It appears that the soul of this particular monkey has no intention of making a reappearance.
It's only a matter of time. I know it is. After all, these secrets have been buried for thousands of years. These things don't happen overnight. But it will happen someday. This is my mission.
I believe I'll leave you to your work, Mr. Travis.
And don't go yet. Let me show you more.
Thank you. Some other time, perhaps.
All right, so that's the guy who wrote the article. He seems maybe eccentric. What did we learn from him? Well, we learned Travis believes the murderer is an Egyptian god. No, I misspelled Egyptian. Egyptian god. Trying to resurrect a mummified monkey. That's what we learned. Loading. Load times are kind of significant, especially since it's just bringing up this screen. It's a very slow-paced game, you might notice. Very slow, very methodical. No music playing. Very dry. The next name on our list is Edward Hall. Who is he? Young barrister. Well, I mean, we're not talking about any cases that are coming up. Like, I mean, trials. So, would he know anything about this? Try him on another day. Well, we could try him now, see what he has to say.
Sorry, fellows. I don't mean to be brusque, but I am too occupied at the moment to concern myself with these so-called mummy murders. Perhaps if the mummy's solicitor were to contact me, then perhaps I would consider defending him.
Right, he's like, why are you coming to me about this? I don't know nothing about the mummy. Next, let's see. Quentin Hogg worked at Scotland Yard, but now reports on crime for the Police Gazette. The Turks were after Fahmy's stolen goods. So we have not heard this name.
Now, the thing what does strike me as odd is the passenger list of the Eastern Empress. Now, I'm not saying it has anything to do with the mummy murders, mind you, but it was a bit out of the ordinary.
What was Hogg?
Akram Fahmy, for starters. He's a well-known importer, he is. For a considerable price by all accounts, he can acquire whatever one's heart desires, be it jewels, art objects, or even wild animals, if that's what you fancy. I'd say he was on board that ship to transport something very valuable.
The presence of one high-powered importer on a London-bound vessel is hardly reason for suspicion.
Right-o. But Abdullah al-Saud was also on board.
Oh, yes. The well-known agent for the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire.
You never miss a trick, do you, Holmes? Well, whatever it was what Fahmy was carrying, I'd say it was something those Turks wanted to get their hands on.
All right, so this seems... How would this relate to the murder? On the ship where the second murder happened, there was a famous importer named Fahmy, and also an agent of the Ottoman Empire who maybe was interested in what he was carrying. Does that have something to do with the murder? We don't know, but we could put it down. On Eastern Empress, Fahmy was transporting something al-Saud wanted it? We could look them up in our directory. Well, first, the person who was transporting something was Akram Fahmy. Native of Saudi Arabia, intensely interested in medieval artifacts, particularly of the precious nature. Nobody was home, but I smell a rat. Well, we could see.
Hello? Is anyone there? Mr. Fahmy, are you at home?
Apparently so, Watson. Look.
Oh, what ghastly business. Everyone will assume the mummy has struck again.
Hardly a plausible assumption. This poor fellow has a knife in his back and not a scrap of sheeting about his neck.
How very observant, Holmes.
Ring up Scotland Yard. This case is simple enough for them to solve.
You've solved it already.
Elementary, my dear Watson. Obviously, it was the butler.
Butler? What butler?
Exactly my point. A man as wealthy as Akram Fahmy would always have a manservant about him. After the foul deed, this one obviously beat a hasty retreat.
All right, we have another dead body. is dead, but Holmes says don't worry about it. It's not part of the mummy case. All right, I mean, Holmes wouldn't be wrong about that. By the way, we can, if we go talk to like Inspector Lestrade from Scotland Yard, we will not bring that up. So one thing that when I was playing this for the first time all those years ago, one frustrating thing is that the video clips never update. Each character that has a clip has the one clip. So it never changes. Like, it'll never update if you go talk to someone a second time. This game's kind of limited in that way. Inspector Lestrade. His bulldog tenacity brought him to the top of Scotland Yard. He's the pick of a bad lot, unimaginative, out of his depth, provided assistance with the taking of Sebastian Moran and the Baskerville case. The irregulars say, Lestrade says, one dead archaeologist, no suspect, no motive. Get on it, Holmes. All right, let's talk to him ourselves.
Well, well, if it isn't Mr. Sherlock Holmes, London's most overly praised amateur sleuth, needing the help of the Yard again.
Are you going to stand for that, Holmes?
Let's just see who proceeds to solve this case, Watson. Inspector Lestrade, my good man, I'm looking into the cause of James Windibank's death.
I should have known. That murder has brought out every crank in the city. I think the professional police can wrap this one up.
All the same, could you tell us what you've discovered to date?
One dead archaeologist, no suspect, no motive.
And what of Andrew Weatherby's death? Have you looked into that?
I have talked to Captain Ramsey, but we have no leads. Look, I'm not even sure that Weatherby's murder falls into our jurisdiction. And if it doesn't, you're not going to find me worrying about it. As it is, I have enough murders to take care of.
All right, well, we don't learn much from Lestrade. He says that he is investigating Windibank, the third victim, but he doesn't think the first or second victims fall under his jurisdiction. One was in Egypt, the second was on the ship. So don't need to worry about those. But he didn't really have anything to contribute here. Next, London Library. It's the library. Sorry, Gov, you'll never catch us in no library. We'll have to go ourselves. What can we learn at the library?
Here it is, Holmes. Egyptian mummies are embalmed bodies preserved to facilitate their resurrection. Many mummies have been found, and they are almost always the bodies of pharaohs. The pharaohs believed that one day their bodies would be brought back to life. See History of Egyptian Mummies by Pettigrew, London, 1834.
Very good, Watson.
All right, we learned about the definition of a mummy. Is that useful? Doesn't seem especially useful. Next, Sir Jasper Meek. He is one of the best medical men in London. Medical examiner, superb general practitioner. The regulars say that the mummy must have strangled the victims with its bare hands. Let's talk to him personally.
Beg your pardon, but could I have a word with you, Sir Jasper? Dr. Watson, of course. Are you investigating the death of Samuel Sneed? I just finished with him.
No, we're interested in James Windibank.
Ah, the mummy's latest victim, of course. Who hired Holmes for this one? King Tut?
Oh, that's a jolly good one. Actually, we don't have a client on this one.
Just for fun, eh? Well, about the only thing I can tell you is that mummy has very powerful hands.
What do you mean?
The trachea was crushed along with one of the vertebrae of the neck. Death was instantaneous. Snap.
But the papers reports say that there were mummy wrappings found round the neck.
Just window dressing. Without question, it was bare hands. The bruises and the way that the vertebrae was crushed leave no doubt about that. Thank you very much for your time, Sir Jasper. We're very much appreciative. Not at all, Watson. You will let me know when you've convicted the mummy. Beg your pardon? Well, so I can perform an autopsy on him. Would be most fascinating, don't you think?
All right. Big, strong hands, not linen wrappings, were the murder weapons. So, let's see. Was strangled with bare hands. Bare hands? Look, I mean, this takes place many years before Mizurna Falls, so it couldn't Strangle Bear couldn't possibly have lived at that time. But we can't discount the possibility. So, okay, someone strangling with bare hands and leaving the linen wrappings around the neck as window dressing. Next on our list, we have H.R. Murray, who is the head chemist at Scotland Yard's criminology lab. Tremendous sorts of information. The regulars say he's found dog and monkey hairs on the mummy sheeting. Could the killer be doing in animals too? Nasty business. Monkey hairs on a mummy bandages. We have seen that. But let's talk to the man personally.
Pettigrew wrote this book over 50 years ago, and there's still nothing better on the subject. Fascinating. Just fascinating. And what can I do for you today, Whitson?
It's Watson, sir.
Watson, yes, of course.
We're interested in what you may have learned about this mummy case.
Oh, so these days it's mummies you're chasing down with that fella Holmes.
It's Holmes, sir.
This is what I said now, isn't it, Whitson?
Yes, I believe you did, sir.
Let me show you what I found so far. This is the bit of linen that was found round the neck of James Windibank. I examined it thoroughly, and it is quite old, perhaps thousands of years. However, it is not the murder weapon.
Are you certain of that?
Aye. The linen is quite old, but it's not at all strong enough to strangle a grown man.
Very interesting, sir.
I also found something quite fascinating. Take a look through this glass. Do you see those short hairs on the fabric?
They look precisely like hairs.
Of course they look like hairs. But what kind of hairs? They're not human hairs. They're dog hairs. Now, look at this. This piece of linen was found round the neck of the victim on board the ship. Well, his name was Leatherby or something. It is also quite old, and on it I found more hairs.
More dog hairs?
No, my dear man, monkey hairs. I've not yet been able to identify the precise species, but it's just extraordinary, isn't it?
Quite. But what do you think it all means?
Well, I'm not the sort who likes to jump to conclusions, Whitson, but I can assure you that neither of these bandages were the murder weapons.
All right, so he's corroborating what we got from the doctor, saying that the bandages could not have been the murder weapons. But we did get some additional information that, let's see, linen had dog hairs on it for Windibank, and for Weatherby, linen had monkey hairs on it. Now, of course, when we interviewed Travis before, he did have a mummified monkey. That does seem like a connection, but like I said, every character only has the one video clip, so it's not like we can follow up on that with anyone, which is kind of a frustrating thing in a detective game. But at least we have a suspect. The next person on here is Disraeli O'Brien. He's the head clerk of the land records at 14 Chancery Lane. Great memory for legal records. He's on holiday, and we can confirm that.
Well, Holmes, it appears we're out of luck. The clerk told me that O'Brien is off on holiday.
Yep, sure is. Next, Langdale Pike is a columnist and contributor to London papers. Source for gossip. That snooty bloke would not talk to us for all the tea in China. Well, will he talk to Holmes? For just a little bit of tea.
Very little about two of the unfortunate gentlemen. I do recall that Turnbull was quite an eccentric chap. I don't believe he ever married, nor did he take his rightful place in London society.
And what of Windybank?
A quiet academic sort, as far as I can tell. Married to a woman called Hildegard. There was one spot of controversy that I can recall. It seems a few years back he had a run-in with the Anti-Vivisectionist League.
No, but of course.
It seems that during a lecture on the advancement of science, he spoke of the autopsy of his own pet, a recently deceased Yorkshire Terrier. Well, I can tell you the Times received a great deal of letters to the editor condemning him on that one. Even one from a Louise Fenwick, who threatened to vivisect him.
Oh, dear. Well, then I surmise it's Weatherby you know nothing about.
Well, now that you mention it, I believe he was assisting Professor Windybank in that lecture series.
All right. What did we learn? He said that Weatherby, assistant for Windybank during that lecture, and Windybank was threatened by Fenwick over dog autopsy. Is any of this important? I mean, some things are, some things aren't. But we could look up Fenwick in the directory. There are two Fenwicks, Louise and Merrill. And Louise is married to Merrill. They were on the ship from Cairo. They didn't know Weatherby, did not seem to care about his death. They complained about their lousy accommodations. We can interview them ourselves. They were on the ship. Maybe they're suspects.
I'm sorry, but I don't know anything about the death of old... whatever his name was.
Andrew Weatherby.
Fact is, I only saw the gentleman once, just as we were boarding. And I'll tell you, I resented the first officer's questioning us on the matter, and I resent yours.
The whole voyage was a disaster from beginning to end. Our accommodations were positively abysmal. They wouldn't even let us bring Dickie into our cabin.
Dickie? Her high-strung, distasteful little mutt.
How can you say that, Merrill? You know Dickie is a blue-blooded Yorkshire Terrier. Mumsy will be with you in just a moment, Dickiekins. He's a bit under the weather, you know. That's why we were only able to stay in Egypt for 2 weeks. Dickie was so disappointed. He so wanted to see the Sphinx.
Mr. Holmes is not interested in your incessant whining, Louise.
Oh, now I whine, do I? There was a time you thought I had a lovely speaking voice. It's true, Mr. Holmes. He once adored me.
No doubt.
Oh, for the love of God, Louise, spare us your blubbering.
So that scene has nothing to do with the case. I just like their performance in that. Absolutely nothing to do with anything. Let's go back to our notebook. Next on here is a Porky Shinwell. Let's see. Shinwell Johnson served 2 terms at Parker's prison, forsaken his life of crime, is now an innkeeper. Porky doesn't know a thing, says the irregulars. Well, let's determine that for ourselves.
There was a couple of blokes in here just a fortnight ago what mentioned the Eastern Empress. Never seen 'em before. Haven't seen 'em since. One was a swarthy fellow, Arab unless I miss my guess. The other was an old English gent. I overheard 'em say something about a bird and later caught the name of the ship. I hope that helps you. Care for a drink here?
Does that help us? A fortnight ago, there were two gentlemen. One was swarthy, and the other was an old English gent. They mentioned they mentioned the ship, the Eastern Empress, and a bird. By bird, I don't know if they mean an actual bird or a woman. Could go either way. Does that mean anything? I don't know if that means anything. Doesn't sound like it does. Unless it's related. I mean, I don't see what that's related to. Maybe it has to do with Akram Fahmy, but Holmes has told us that has nothing to do with the case. Don't worry about that. All right, so for the notebook, we have one entry left, Somerset House. Let's see. Office for Registrar General for Births, Marriages, Deaths. Records are open to the public. Gone to a skirmish on the clerk with this one. Turnbull leaves everything to London University. Weatherby and Windibank leave everything to their wives. Okay, so it looks like the angle we're going with here is maybe they were murdered for inheritance. Could be. Let's pull up the notes. We have not learned much about Turnbull, but it looks like Turnbull left inheritance to London University. Left inheritance to wife. Left inheritance to wife. Could have something to do with inheritance. Well, let's go there ourselves.
Mr. Turnbull apparently left what little he had to the Egyptology department at London University. And Windibank left everything to his wife Hildegard.
What about Weatherby?
Ditto. Everything was left to his wife Clarissa, although being such a young chap, it hardly seems that he had much to leave at all.
All right, that's something we could put down. For Weatherby, did not have much to leave. So I guess the indication there is, why would he have been killed for an inheritance if he did not have much to leave anyone? So why don't we talk to the people who are receiving these inheritances? We're done with the notebook. We don't have any other names left in it. So now we have to go to the directory and figure out who we have to talk to. Okay, so Turnbull said he was leaving everything to London University. And they are in this, so... Institute of Higher Learning. The irregulars do not want to go to the university. Let's go there ourselves.
Such a tragedy. Fine men all and such outstanding scholars. I still can't quite get over the shock of it.
We understand. Professor, we're looking for background information on these three men so that we can understand how their murders might tie together.
Well, let me begin with Dr. Turnbull. Ebenezer Turnbull was responsible for organizing the Carteret expedition. Quite a remarkable man, really. This was the first time he teamed up with James Windibank. Professor Windibank was one of our most popular lecturers. In fact, several of his former students were also eager to accompany him. I recall him saying that he was having difficulty choosing. Weatherby turned out to be the lucky one. Though it seems far from it now, doesn't it? I suppose Smith and Travis turned out to be the lucky ones after all.
Smith and Travis?
Peter Smith accepted the invitation to join another expedition. As for Philip Travis, he was quite keen on accompanying Professor Windibank. In fact, he became exceedingly upset when Andrew Weatherby A postgraduate student in the department was chosen instead. Took it rather personally, I should say.
All right, well, there is some information we got from that. So, Turnbull, organizer of Egyptian trip. Weatherby, chosen by Windibank to go on expedition. But also something of interest, it mentioned that Philip Travis was a student of Windibank, was not chosen for expedition, and was angry. So that is new information, that Travis is not just a separate person from this whole thing, but he was he was a student and was in consideration to go on the Egyptian trip, and was quite mad that he was not chosen and that Weatherby was chosen instead of him. So things do seem to be leaning towards a particular suspect here. All right, so Turnbull left everything to the London University. Weatherby left everything to his wife. Here he is. Here's Weatherby's entry in the directory. Nothing on file. The irregulars say, quite a lovely lady, such a tiny bird she is. So they went to talk to his wife, but don't really have any information about that. Let's go talk to the wife.
I'm very sorry to intrude on you in your moment of grief.
Oh, that's quite all right. You know, Andrew and I haven't been married very long.
Long enough to know if you had any enemies?
Oh, Andrew was so unassuming. Everyone liked him.
Including Mr. Urubaru?
I really loved my husband.
I'm sure you did. Oh, English toffee. My favorite.
Would you like one?
Please.
Sorry. You'll have to open this yourself. I've never been any good with these things.
All right, so she says that her husband did not have any enemies. But now something odd comes up. Holmes says, not even Mr. Urubaru. That is not a name we've heard. And this is a problem with the format of the game. Since every character only has one clip, if Holmes wants to bring up a character, the game cannot tell if we have heard that name before. So it's an issue with the format. Something else we noticed is that she couldn't open the tin of toffee. Those hands don't seem very strong, do they? Weak hands. Let's see, look up the third person. Windibank left everything to his wife. Professor of Egyptology and Science at London University. Caught the missus at home, says the chap who wrote the newspaper stories about that mummy was one of Windibank's old students. So we also got that information from London University. Here was another way we could have gotten it. However, she's not going to be at home because she went to the cemetery.
What did you learn, Watson?
Not a thing, Holmes.
You learned nothing?
Don't get testy, Holmes. There wasn't anyone about.
My humble apologies, Watson.
Yeah, no one at home. I don't know if we can actually go to the cemetery. I didn't see the cemetery in the directory, so maybe we can't. But we could also look up Turnbull's address and see if anyone's there. He wasn't married. The third son of the Earl of Downey. At age 6, he discovered a Roman ruin on the family's country estate. Landlady said he was gone, didn't know when he would return, said he was really into mummies. Really into mummies. Let's go talk to the landlady.
Dr. Turnbull, he was a strange one, he was. Hardly ever at home. Always traipsing about a Lord knows where.
May I take a look at his things?
Oh, suit yourself. All he had is a big pile of books about Egyptian mummies and a few maps. He was a son of an earl, he was. Though you hardly tell from looking at him, poor fellow. Do you really think this mummy thing's what's done him in? Creepy, I says.
All right, son of an earl. You wouldn't know by looking at him. Guy loves mummies. Guy knows what he wants out of life, and what that was mummies. Probably being killed in a mummy's tomb was the climax of his life. If you asked him how he would have wanted to die, it's like, I want to be strangled to death in a mummy's tomb. And he got what he wanted. Well, we didn't really learn anything from that. Earlier, we found the name of the company that owns the ship, the Eastern Empress, which was, let's see, it's Jardine, but it's not listed under J. The company is in here. Let me just see where that was. Again, if you wanted to brute force this by looking up everyone, you could do it, but it's not fun. Like, you can kind of see that if you want to get any enjoyment from this, you just have to, engage with the whole thing of, I'm a detective. I'm going to look up clues. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to deduce. It's basically up to you if you want to engage with that. Shipping companies. Jardine, here it is.
Here is a passenger list you requested, sir.
You can barely see what that says. Fortunately, the irregulars will repeat that information. Oh, let me pull that back up. Right. Abdullah Al-Saud, Akram Fahmy, Louise Fenwick, Merrill Fenwick, Philip Travis. Well, Travis was on the boat. Anthony Orubaru, Andrew Weatherby, Clarissa Weatherby, James Windebank. Okay, so Holmes mentioned Mr. Orubaru when he was talking to Mrs. Weatherby. So I guess this is where we would find that name. But it hasn't come up before. Here he is. Nothing on file. Guy smelled a whiskey. Guy's a drunk, Mr. Holmes. Let's talk to him.
If this is an inconvenient time, perhaps I could come back, Mr. Uruburu.
I wouldn't hear of it. Just a bit of a hangover. I've weathered plenty worse than this.
I'm investigating the death of Andrew Weatherby. You were on the ship with him out of Cairo. Did you happen to make his acquaintance?
Weatherby, a most tedious fellow.
So tedious, one might want to do him in.
Don't be preposterous. In my condition, I couldn't have done anything of the sort.
What condition was that?
And I thought you were a great detective. The first night out, a few of us threw a bit of a bash that went on until we docked in London.
Did Mrs. Weatherby attend this particular bash?
She was the guest of honor, you might say.
All right, so Urubaru was on the ship. And what we learned there is Mrs. Weatherby is a party girl. Didn't say anything else about it. But why would Urubaru kill Weatherby? All right. Any other information that we could be looking at? Let's pull up the notes again. 3 people dead. Actually 4 now, but apparently Fahmy doesn't matter. Philip Travis was the author of the article. He does have a mummified monkey, a student of Windibank, not chosen for the expedition, was mad about that. Turnbull was murdered in a tomb in Egypt, left inheritance to London University, the organizer of the trip. Weatherby's the second victim, killed on a ship returning to England. Oh, we did not talk to the captain and the first mate, who did the investigation of Weatherby's murder on the ship. We should talk to them. Herman Ramsey's the captain. Captain of the Eastern Empress. Ramsey put Tenney in charge of the whole investigation. Well, let's talk to Ramsey.
We had just come through a rather grueling storm, so I sent my first officer, Luther Tenney, down into the hold to check on the condition of the cargo. He reported back post-haste that Mr. Weatherby was lying dead among the Egyptian artifacts we were transporting. I turned over the helm to Tenney and went below to have a look for myself.
And did what you see confirm Teddy's report?
Unfortunately, yes. Weatherby was lying next to that coffin, or whatever it's called, apparently strangled. I went back to the bridge and put Tenney in charge of the investigation.
And what did he uncover?
Well, you'll have to ask him for the specifics, because I can scarcely recall the details.
All right. So he did see the victim. He saw the murder scene. But Tenney's the one who actually performed the investigation. So let's talk to the first mate. Nothing on file. Passengers were a curious lot. Tenney found the stiff. That's not a lot of information. Let's talk to the guy directly.
Let me tell you, a murder, even by a 4,000-year-old mummy, was only one odd thing in a string of bad luck on this voyage.
What sort of bad luck?
It all started with the crew, really. Seamen were a rather superstitious lot to begin with, and the idea carrying about a 4,000-year-old mummy had them shivering in their timbers. We almost faced a bloody mutiny. Then there were the passengers, a strange lot. I can tell you that reporter fellow, Travis, did us no service at all with his mystic mumbo-jumbo. He and Professor Windibank had a regular war of words going on about whatever powers this mummy was supposed to have. And there was the two Arabs.
Arabs? Interesting. Do you recall their names?
I should hope I do. One was called Barmy. He always carried around this curious little box. No clue what was in it, but Barmy never let it out of his sight. The other one's name was Al-Sad, and he spent most of his time lurking about watching Barmy. My guess is he wanted that box.
Sounds like you had your hands full.
I haven't even told you about the fight yet between Mr. Weatherby and Mr. Arubaru.
Over what?
Weatherby's wife, I'd say, though they were a tight-lipped lot about it.
I see. Tell me, Lieutenant, we understand that you were the first person to discover the body.
Yes, sir, I was. Captain Ramsey sent me down to inspect the hold. I went immediately over to them Egyptian crates. Professor Windibank was particularly anxious about him, you know.
Could you describe the scene as you remember it?
I'll never forget it. I just made my way to the back of the hold, and I noticed at the top of them crates, the one what carried the mummy's coffin was raised up kind of funny like. The coffin lid was laid off to one side, and there was Mr. Weatherby all sprawled on the floor next to a bowl of ashes. He'd been strangled by a length of the mummy's sheeting. Bloody gruesome, I tell you. Poor bloke's eyes popped out like a couple of sausages on a hot iron skillet.
Quite a vivid picture, don't you agree, Holmes?
Quite. And you reported this to Captain Ramsey straight away?
Absolutely. In fact, the captain put me in charge of the entire investigation.
And what did you discover? Did anybody have any contact with Weatherby on the night of the murder?
Not that I know of. I could account for all the crew. And the passengers were in their cabins as far as anyone knew or would say. Nobody saw anything, heard anything, or knew anything. Besides, Weatherby was seasick from the beginning. He stayed pretty much in his cabin all the time. Maybe that's why the lovely young Mrs. Weatherby was gallivanting about.
With Uruburu?
Yes, indeed.
And what of the bowl? Where is it now?
The bowl?
With the ashes.
Oh, yes. You know, now that you mention it, I don't recall ever seeing it again.
Well, there's quite a lot of information, even though the irregulars did not say much. Okay, so he first talked about that Travis and Windibank were constantly arguing. He mentioned that Fahmy was carrying around a mysterious box and Al-Saud was following him. Fahmy's dead. Holmes says it has nothing to do with our case, though. We know that Weatherby and Uruburu got into a fight, probably about the party that Mrs. Weatherby attended. And Weatherby was seasick and in his cabin much of the time, which is probably why Mrs. Weatherby went out and about. He found the body. We know about that. He had a linen around the neck. There was a bowl of ashes, but he doesn't know where that bowl went. So we did learn a few things. Even though there was a fight, it doesn't seem like Uruburu would have had that much of a reason to strangle Weatherby, since Weatherby seems like he would have been the one who was actually angry about that situation. But we do know that Travis was on the boat and was arguing a lot on board. Also, something else to consider is that the 3 victims were all killed in the same way. And while Uruburu was on the ship, we don't know if Uruburu would have been in the other locations. I mean, we do know he is in London. We did talk to him. But what are the chances that he would have been in the Egyptian tomb? That seems doesn't seem like there's a high chance of that. All right, so do we have any other names? Well, the guy who was following Fahmy was, Abdullah Al-Saud. Is this relevant at all? Nothing on file? When we got there, we ran to Scotland Yard's finest. It seems Al-Saud was murdered. Lestrade thinks the butler did it. I mean, that sounds like what we got from Fahmy, though.
Well, Holmes, I checked in with Mr. Al-Saud's manservant and...
And you discovered that Mr. Al-Saud was not at home.
But however did you know that?
Elementary, my dear Watson. I noticed some crumpet crumbs from the corner bakery stuck to your lapel. You haven't been gone long enough to stop for tea and interview anyone at length.
Most observant.
Oh, that Holmes. I wonder if they got the wrong description there, because it didn't say that Al-Saud was dead. Fahmy's the one who's dead. Okay, so looking back at the notes, we spoke to Ramsey and Tenney. So far, it seems like the whole thing is that Travis is really into Egyptology and, he wanted to go on the expedition, and he seems maybe a little erratic. I don't think we've gotten any other names to look up. So, if we feel like we have enough information, we could always go to the bottom right, because this is, if we want to solve the case, if we feel that we can give it a try here.
Hear ye, hear ye. The Queen's court stands in order. Mr. Holmes, I understand you've been looking into the mummy murders.
Yes, my lord.
Tell me then, who was Ebenezer Turnbull's murderer? I believe we can choose from either our notebook or the directory, Holmes.
Very good, Watson.
Okay, victim number 1, Turnbull. Well, the only suspect we really have is Philip Travis.
And what makes you so certain? What was Travis's motive for killing Turnbull?
So we know we got that right, because if we didn't, he would say, no, that's wrong. Go back and try again. So we have a multiple choice question. Why did Travis kill Turnbull? Did Travis feel that the tomb of Catabit should be left undisturbed? Or Turnbull refused to honor Travis's press credentials, barring him from the excavation site, thus jeopardizing Travis's job? Or Turnbull publicly lambasted Travis for questioning the doctor's credentials, or because of their mutual interest in Clarissa Weatherby. I'm trying, I think that there must be an interview or something that we missed, because I'm pretty sure the answer was C. Turnbull publicly lambasted Travis for questioning the doctor's credentials. We didn't see that, but I'm pretty sure this was the answer, and I'm trying to remember where the evidence for that was. Maybe it was in a newspaper. Maybe it was one of the newspaper articles. But I'm pretty sure it's this.
And what of Andrew Weatherby? Who murdered him?
Right, so that's correct because we're moving on to the next one. Who murdered Andrew Weatherby? Well, we think it's the same guy. Philip Travis.
So, you say Travis killed Turnbull and Weatherby?
Yes, I believe he did, my lord.
What was his motive to kill Weatherby, Holmes?
Weatherby scoffed at Travis's mystical beliefs, or the Times was planning to replace Travis with Weatherby as the new Egyptian correspondent, or when they were students, Weatherby's Egyptology dissertation was published while Travis's was rejected, or Travis was angry that Weatherby was chosen for the expedition instead of himself. Okay, well, this one's easy because we did get this information from more than one source. Travis was angry that Weatherby was chosen for the expedition instead of himself.
Ah, revenge. The oldest motive in the book. Now, Holmes, who murdered James Windibank?
And again, Philip Travis.
This Travis seems to be quite a busy fellow. What made him kill James Windibank?
Windibank had failed Travis in one of his classes. Windibank did not choose him for the expedition. Windibank ridiculed Travis's pursuit of ancient mysticism, an experiment in the resurrection of the dead. Well, as fun as it would be for him to try to resurrect Windibank, no, he was trying to resurrect a monkey. He was angry because Windibank did not choose him for the expedition.
Excellent job, gentlemen. You have solved the case to my satisfaction. The court stands in recess. Until next time, of course.
We did it. Okay, so what is this?
Dear Holmes, perhaps we are in the wrong business altogether. If we had been top-notch, we should have cracked this case in 26 points. I think I will ring up the university immediately and see if we might enroll in a detective course.
Okay, so there's an invisible score kept throughout the game. Every time you talk to someone, your score goes up. But we're working on golf rules where a lower score is better. So what Holmes' score represents is the minimum amount of points that you could get while also still getting the necessary information to solve the case. My score is much higher because I talk to a whole lot of irrelevant people. So I guess there is like some kind of replay value here. Not really. I guess there's like a little bit in if you wanted to try to figure out what is the absolute minimal path to get to match Holmes' score. You could play it again and do that. Well, let's watch Holmes' wrap-up of the case.
Well, Watson, I believe this case is solved. And for your information, it was not the mummy.
Come, Holmes. I never thought for a moment it was the mummy.
Of course not, Watson. However, the murderer and the mummy did have one thing in common.
What's that?
They both were the only ones present at the time of the murders, except, of course, the victims.
You state the obvious, Holmes.
Ah, but it is seeing the obvious that is important. First, I saw no reason to assume that we were dealing with more than one murderer. Secondly, the locations of the murders limited the number of suspects.
Limited them? The first murder was in Egypt, the second on ship in the middle of the sea, and the third in London. You call the entire populations of London and Egypt a limited number of suspects?
No, Watson. We had to find someone who was in Egypt for the first murder, on the ship for the second, and in London for the third.
Oh, but of course.
According to the newspapers, the Eastern Empress was in Bombay at the time of Ebenezer Turnbull's murder, so that eliminated the ship's crew as suspects. Thus, I needed the list of passengers who boarded the ship at Cairo. It was our visit to Jardine, Mason and Company that provided our first critical clue. From it, I learned that Philip Travis was a passenger. I then learned that Travis was the chap who reported on the first murder. He became one suspect, but I had no motive. Clarissa Weatherby, who was also at the scene of the murder in Cairo, was another possible suspect, since she appears to have had a bit of a dalliance with Mr. Uruburu there on the high seas. So I had found her motive for the murder of Weatherby, but not a motive for the murder of the others.
Then whom did you eliminate?
Mrs. Weatherby. Her hands were not strong enough even to open a jar of English toffee, let alone strangle a grown man.
And what of Travis's motive?
It seems that Travis was a student in the Egyptology department at London University and had studied under James Windibank. He wanted very badly to be chosen as a member of the expedition, but Windibank turned him down. Instead, Weatherby was chosen and Travis was furious. So there you have the motive for two of the murders.
And what of his motive for the murder of Turnbull?
Evidently, Travis had written a vicious article questioning Dr. Turnbull's credentials to lead the expedition. Turnbull's response was quite harsh, probably powerful enough to drive an odd duck like Travis to murder.
Very impressive, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Yeah, he mentions an article that Travis wrote. So maybe if we looked in the newspaper more, maybe we would have found that. And we go back to the main menu. So that is The Mummy's Curse, one of the three cases in Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, the second pack-in with the Sega CD when I bought it. So, pros and cons of Sherlock Holmes. Well, like I said, as far as a pack-in goes, it is the complete opposite of Sulfi's. It is a very slow-paced, a very unexciting, very methodical, very quiet game. I did not spend too much time with it when I was a kid, because I was just kind of confused at the progression. Like, it just kind of puts you on the menu and says, you know, go at it. Okay, what do I do? Well, get out a notebook and start writing things down. I do remember being frustrated at how the video clips would never update. Like, if I wanted to follow up with someone else, and you can't follow up with someone else because these things never change. I remember finding that pretty frustrating, playing it back then. It's kind of fun. I mean, if you're willing to engage with it, write down the notes, really get into like the mindset of, I'm a detective, I'm not going to brute force this, I'm going to pay attention to these interviews, these video clips, the information, try to, list it all out, organize it, deduce things. It can be kind of fun, but it is limited in that you only have the 3 cases, and how long is it going to take you to do a case? Not that long. It's really not going to take that long. And unfortunately, if you wanted to, you could brute force the ending as well, because you saw how it worked. You just answer multiple choice questions, and they're the same questions every time. So if you get it wrong, you can just do it again and just brute force your way through that as well. So you have to, resist the urge to do that. Otherwise, why are you even playing the game? When I say the game is dry, like an example of that is at the end, we don't even see Travis being arrested. We just see Holmes summarizing the case to Watson. I would just like to have seen a bit more surrounding the case. Like, we could have seen Travis's reaction to being found out. That's one of the fun things about a murder mystery, is seeing the murderer get caught and how they react to that. And we're not getting any of that. We're not getting that. It's all right. Like, I don't need a game to be extremely exciting. I feel like this game, though, really tries its hardest to not be exciting. Like, you really have to fight against the, just like the very slow feeling it has. I think I don't know if most people would want to. The video quality is bad. Again, that's just something you're going to deal with on the Sega CD. If you want to have an FMV game, the video is going to look like this. Nothing you can do about that. In the context of it being a pack-in, it was probably actually a good choice for a pack-in because, one, it showed you a kind of game that you just didn't have on consoles. You would have this kind of game on PCs, but as far as console goes, you really didn't see this kind of thing before. So a good example of, hey, here's Soul Feast, a type of game you have seen, but now here is a completely different kind of game that you have not seen on a Genesis or a Super Nintendo or what have you. Also, another reason why it's probably a good choice for a pack-in is that, would you really want to pay money to buy this? Like, this would have been a full-price game. And if I bought this, I probably would have been disappointed, I feel. Probably a good choice for a pack-in because of that. Still, I can appreciate it now. I did not appreciate it so much back then. And, I don't know. I feel like the game could use, just something extra here. Just something a little bit more exciting, maybe. A little bit. But I had a pretty good time playing it tonight. But as far as, let's see. As far as where would this go on the rankings, well, we only have one game right now, it's Soul Feast. Is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective better than Soul Feast? No. No, it's not. You may notice I wrote Volume 1. There's a Volume 2. That's later. But yeah, this is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 1. And for right now, it is our number 2 game on this list. Again, I would not have wanted to have paid money to buy this on its own. As a pack-in, not a bad choice. You can have a pretty good time. Yeah, maybe this could also work as like a party game, in the same way that something like Mode could work, where you have a bunch of people like trying to figure out who they should be talking to and what they should be doing. Who is the like Mode is really more of a party game though. That's more of a fun party game. This could work like that. Maybe it could. But I feel like when you look back on the great influential FMV games, I don't think Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective is one of those. But good enough for what it needed to be, I guess. Like I said before, if you were interested in this game yourself, it is on Steam, and the video quality is much better. But this has been the Sega CD version. We'll continue on with more Sega CD for the third and final packet. Yeah, 3 pack-ins. Like, they knew that thing cost $300. They were trying to give you something to go with it.